dares to go. But you can take it.
Hello, this is a view from space.
The Spaceman on AM 640.
What the Spaceman? This is 9:18. I missed the first hour and 18 minutes.
Space at 640toronto.com or Spaceman at 640toronto.com. We've got a nuke update. This is from DT High Space. With all the bad economic news, I caught up with some of the Japanese nuclear news. 3 officials just got the axe for mishandling the way that this mess is being cleaned up. And the Japanese nuclear power plant, Fukushima, is still leaking radioactive material. I went to get my Geiger counter out for a radiation update. It's way up since last month here in Toronto, Canada. The Illuminati-controlled news media really do things in plain sight. DT, just getting over cancer. You can read some of them, or all, if you wish, of this email. Yes, I've been talking about this earthquake and tsunami. As you know, I did a few shows on it and said that it would even drag on longer than the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And we're up to the 6th month now. March 11th it hit. And there are still stories about that event coming out on the Illuminati mass-controlled media, just keeping it there, making sure that we all think solar and don't think nuclear. Solar good, nuclear bad, which is what the entire last summer was all about, as they were saying solar good, oil bad. Actual brainwashing for now at least 6 months in running. I'm thinking it will go on until the new year before we stop hearing about it. But the very intriguing numbers that I was bringing up just before the break. Right now, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth's great-great-grandmother, is the longest reigning British monarch in all of history. When Queen Victoria died, she was 81 years, 7 months, 4 weeks, and 1 day, as I said before the break, when she died in 1901, completing a reign of exactly 63 years and 216 days. Queen Elizabeth II will break that record on September 9th of 2015. If she lives till then and still occupies the throne, Queen Elizabeth II will then become the British Empire's longest reigning monarch in history. Right now, Queen Elizabeth II is Britain's 4th longest monarch of all time. In 2012, next year, as a matter of fact, in actually a few months, Queen Elizabeth II surpasses King George III. That will be on January 29th of 2012. He's the 3rd longest reigning monarch. And then when she passes King Henry III, who's in 2nd place at the moment, on March 5th she passes him of next year, Queen Elizabeth will then become the 2nd longest all time, only behind her great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, for the number 1 spot. I believe it's then when Queen Elizabeth will step aside for her grandson, Prince William. 2015 seems to be a very important year for the Illuminati. Why?
Yeah.
It's just 3 years away, and big changes are soon coming to the world. The EU, for instance, will have a new leader. José Manuel Barroso, the former Prime Minister of Portugal, is now the 11th President of the EU, and in 2009 was re-elected for another 5-year term. That term ends in 2015. The EU will have a new leader. By the way, the President of the EU is actually appointed by the European Council after taking into account the latest European elections. Yes, he is appointed by the European Council. Also, Britain's Prime Minister David Cameron says he wants all British troops home from Afghanistan by 2015. That would mean all troops out of Afghanistan by 2015. America's presidential term will just about be over, and they will be getting ready to enter their 2016 elections, just as right now they're gearing up for that all-important 2012 election. So America's president will also be changing. David Cameron, Nick Clegg installed in 2010. There has to be a general election in Britain at least every 5 years. This brings you to that very interesting year again of 2015 once again. Here in Canada, another major player in NATO will be getting set for another election too in 2015. When you consider the changes the entire globe has been put through in the last 4 years, you can only imagine how much things will have changed in another 4 years, bringing us to the year 2015. There's a rocky road ahead before we get to 2015. The U.S. debt deal reached to avoid default, that is, until Q1 in 2013, at which time the threat has already been made. The American politicians are already saying, expect the next president, whoever that is going to be asking us again in 2013 to raise the debt ceiling again. So they're doing it all over again. But this time, I'm positive, in 2013, when they try to raise the debt ceiling, there will be a different outcome. No more kicking any can down any road, as was done earlier this week. The Americans will be forced to face their sovereign debt, meaning those two ugly words will this time apply to America. Those words, of course, are austerity measures. The same is coming for Italy and Spain, two Vatican-controlled countries. In Italy, one of the very troubled, debt-ridden countries where just yesterday Berlusconi said he would institute a law that forces the next Prime Minister of Italy to have a balanced budget by law in 2013 in order to get help from the EU. But guess what? Silvio Berlusconi has also vowed not to run for a new term in 2013. So he's making it almost impossible for the next Prime Minister of Italy. A new British monarch, too, I believe, could very possibly be crowned at about this time. That's the year. 2015 is the year. September 9th is the date where Queen Elizabeth II surpasses Queen Victoria for first place all-time longest serving monarch in British history. I believe she'll get that record and then step aside. A new British monarch will be crowned. Prince Charles, I believe, will be passed over to Prince William, since Prince William has the blood of all the Roman Catholic kings and queens of British history in his veins, which is something Prince Charles has not. Princess Diana brought that bloodline the Windsors were lacking in their family up until now. Princess Diana did her job very, very well. She supplied the royals with 2 male heirs, exactly according to Davidic law. William and Harry as a backup. Prince William, born in London, 9:03 p.m., June 21st, 1982. His birth took place just after the solar eclipse on the summer solstice, an especially powerful moment in time when the sun, moon, and north node were closely aligned in the prince's 7th house in the emotional sign of Cancer. On the eve of June 21st, 1982, the party was held. Druids, witches, and Satanists all over the world partied. Their sun god was reborn. And it was prophesied by the ancient Druids that their sun king would return to them upon some future solstice of June 21st. He would be born of a Merovingian princess. All eclipses, you see, both solar and lunar eclipses, are included in what NASA calls Saros-Series. Each Saros-Series runs for a time cycle of between 12 and 13 with 18 years and 11 days between each eclipse. During this time, moving the eclipse either from north to the South Pole or vice versa, about 70 eclipses have time to occur during this cycle. The word Saros in Greek is taken from the Chaldean deity's name Sar. Sar's symbol was a circle, the sun worshipper's shape, symbolizing a great cycle of time. It also is symbolized in the number 3600. The Hebrew word Saros, meaning king or prince, also ties into this. A partial solar eclipse occurred on June 21st, 1982, the day of Prince William's birth. The eclipse reached its maximum at exactly 12:03 Universal Time, royal numbers, while the summer solstice reaches its maximum. Exactly 9 hours later, at precisely 21:03, more royal numbers, the birth of Prince William took place. The Spaceman and A View from Space will return in a moment. This is Talk Radio.
Charles Adler can make people crazy. Yeah, Adler winds people up like a trout. It sends my friend into a catatonic state. A lot of people who email into the station flat out dislike Charles, vehemently, with great angst and a fiery disdain and dislike too as well, and like that. Of course, many of those people who have an outspoken aversion to Charles or are openly displeased with Charles, well, they listen too. Gets them all fired up about the issues, I guess. Someone to disagree with. Hey, it gets you involved, right? Be a part of the dialogue. Maybe you should pop in and see if Charles can get you all worked up into a lather. Charles Adler, weekday afternoons, 2 to 4. Talk Radio, AM 640.
Award-winning journalist Lisa Ling brings her series Our